Saturday at noon, number 11 SMU at number 6 Penn State. This game is on TNT or Max if you want to watch it as well. Dawn, let's start off with you with the Penn State offense. You have the Penn State run game in this game against the SMU run defense. What should we be looking out for when they have the ball?
So I think, we've talked a lot about the innovation and creativity of Andy Kotelnicki all year, and maybe it was a little bit less of that with Bo Prabula gone into the transfer portal. You won't get that package, but you still have Tyler Warren if you want to go that route, and we've seen that work all year. But I think a big thing for me, and we saw them have, I would argue, their best day running the football against Oregon in the Big Ten title game was, I thought it was actually a more direct approach, especially in the second half of the game. They kind of just ran their zone concepts, ran some counter concepts, and got after Oregon. They were the more physical team when it came to their run game. And you look at what Oregon did, I thought especially at linebacker, Bryce Betcher and Jeffrey Bassa really struggled in that game, maybe for the first time all season. That was the worst that I'd seen them look all season in run defense. And I think that's a group for SMU, the linebackers, that I'm looking at the most in this game. When you talk about Kobe Wilson, Ahmad Walker, and Alex Kilgore, all of them posted run defense grades above 80 this year. I believe as a unit, their linebackers posted a 90. Yes, there it is right there. Only 9 missed tackles by their linebackers in run defense all season, tied for the best in the country. And it's really probably the best in the country because they played an extra game. I think it's them. I think it's them in Oregon. Only a 17.8% negative grade percentage, their percentage of plays with a negative grade, which I believe is in the top 15 or 20 in the country as well. Really, really good players. This is a group, though, for as talented as they are, they're really small. Like Kobe Wilson's listed at 5'11 and 225. Can fly laterally.
It's like a safety almost.
He can chase the football with the best of them. But I think what Penn State did against Oregon was, I think it was the best they did all year of getting to the second level, their offensive line. And you could see every single time, because good running teams can block on the first level. Great running teams block on the second level. And I think the times when we've seen SMU a little bit vulnerable in run defense, because I think their defensive line is spectacular. Elijah Roberts and those guys, I think you're going to see another great battle in the trenches. I think this is maybe the most underrated defensive line in the country. But these linebackers, is Andy going to take that straightforward approach again, like he did against Oregon, and just get right downhill on them? Instead of, and look, it's been great. It's been all the creative stuff has been great. There's trick plays. There's Tyler Warren playing quarterback. That's probably still a part of it, right? There's just everything. The formations, that's big number 71 coming in from the slot and cracking people. Like, all that stuff is great. But I think against SMU, he may actually want to simplify it a little bit like he did the second half against Oregon and just go, all these linebackers are 225, maybe 230 pounds. If we get on them, we can open up big holes on the second level. Now, again, you still got to block that great defensive line, right? We're talking about Elijah Roberts and Jaden Harrison Hunt and all these guys. They got a 9-man defensive line that's really good for SMU. But I think if Penn State can find a way to get to the second level with their offensive linemen like they did, I think they could give SMU a lot of problems. Again, not because they're not talented players. You've seen the production. They're really good players. They're really athletic players. But they're small.
Yeah.
And I would be a little bit worried about that because I just saw Penn State run over Bryce Betcher and Jeffrey Bassa at Oregon on the second level, and they're much bigger than these linebackers that SMU have. So that's the one thing I would worry about, is they are very good, but they're a little undersized. I don't think Andy should go messing around laterally and trying to get to the sidelines, because I think these guys can run and chase with the best of them, especially Kobe Wilson. He's blazing fast. I think you get right downhill on him and hit him right in the mouth.
You mentioned Tyler Warren playing a little quarterback. He might have to do that a little more now because Bo Prabula in the transfer portal, those packages are gone now.
Well, if something happens to Drew, do they just go to Warren instead of anybody else?
No. I think they'll probably go with Ethan Grunkemeyer, the true freshman, who's a former 4-star recruit, former top 10 quarterback coming out of high school, mind you. So I do think they'll do that. But speaking of Tyler Warren, I have the Penn State passing against SMU pass defense. And I think a lot of people would expect me to talk about Tyler Warren because he is the entirety of the passing game for Penn State. Yeah, he's really good. He won the John Mackey Award as well for the best tight end in college football because he led all Power 4 tight ends in catches, receiving yards, and yards after the catch. And Dawn, outside of Tyler Warren, we said this for 2 years now, Penn State's receiving core lacks top-end talent at wide receivers. Dawn, all of Penn State's wide receivers combined for only 1,496 receiving yards. That's 114th in college football. 114th. One of the 20 or so worst in college football. And keep in mind, that's a counting stat. That's not really an average stat. Penn State played 13 games while most teams played 12. So Penn State had an extra game, and the receiving core, meaning the wide receivers, is still one of the 20 worst in America in terms of receiving yards. They only looked at Tyler Warren. It's highly unlikely that any defense could completely shut down Tyler Warren, but SMU's really well equipped to at least hold him in check. The Mustangs actually lead the nation with a 93.2 coverage grade from their safeties this year. And coming in second is Ohio State, who is one of two teams that beat Penn State this year and a team that held Tyler Warren to 4 catches for 47 yards. But the difference is, Dawn, Ohio State's corners on the outside are pretty good. You got Denzel Burke, you got Igbinosin. They're pretty solid, right? We'll get into that in a little bit later, but they're solid. Dawn, SMU's corners on the outside are not. They've had problems on the outside this year. They have a 64.5 coverage grade, which is 117th in the country from their corners this season. So, listen, Penn State's going to want to have Tyler Warren carry their passing events. He's done all year. But it might not be able to do so against SMU's elite safety quartet. You know, usually it's a duo of safeties. SMU plays like 4 safeties a lot. And Isaiah Nkwobia, Jonathan McGill, Cale Sanders Jr., and Ahmad Moses. They're all very, very talented players. Again, they're not going to shut down Tyler Warren, but they're going to slow him down enough. But I do think that a guy like Harrison Wallace in this game could be massive for Penn State. I think this is the X factor in the game, is Harrison Wallace against SMU's cornerbacks. Because, yes, Penn State's wide receivers have been insanely disappointing this year. They have not played well at all. But you're also going up against an SMU secondary that's very strong at safety, not very strong at cornerback. And I think that is the matchup to watch, is who wins on the outside in this game between Penn State's wide receivers and SMU's cornerbacks.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how this lined up, that's the weakest part of both of these sides, is that Penn State at wide receiver has some issues.
Yeah.
SMU at corner, that's what it's been all season. Down the middle of their defense, they're as good as anybody at all 3 levels.
Yeah.
But who's
strength on strength and weakness on weakness.
Who's going to win this weird perimeter battle between two teams, kryptonites here?
Yeah.
And the other element, too, is it's not just that. You can move some people around, too. I think there's an element where you go, okay, let's start reading coverages and things here. Maybe we put Tyler Warren out wide and just go ball him. We've seen that before. I think we saw it in the Ohio State game, didn't we?
Yeah.
Where, here and there, they'll just line him up and have a go ball outside the numbers with Tyler Warren because, well, he's the best candidate on the team to catch it. So I think as always, the movement with Warren, like you mentioned, anywhere in the formation, the entire offense runs through him. Where is he going to line up? How is SMU going to handle covering him? And how comfortable are they maybe leaving those guys out there one-on-one? Because that's where we've seen Penn State have issues. That Ohio State game, like you mentioned, shut down on the outside. Yeah. Nothing outside the numbers, outside of like one miracle catch from Wallace that I still don't know how he caught that ball inside the 5. And then they threw him a goal line fade that got picked off. So, that's kind of the story for Penn State's offenses. We've got everything except being able to throw to the outside, and usually to beat SMU, teams want to throw to the outside.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that because you have what is the best tight end in college football in Tyler Warren, at least by the John Mackey Award, against what has been the best coverage grade from safeties this year in the country. So you got the best tight end in the country against the best safeties in the country, at least by grading system. And then you got really underwhelming receiving core against a really underwhelming cornerback group as well. That's a very, very interesting matchup, I think, because I think it's strength on strength and weakness on weakness. All right, let's go over to the other side of the ball with SMU's offense against Penn State's defense. You have the passing game for SMU in this one, Dawn. 2 quarterbacks that are already announced, Kevin Jennings and Drew Aller. They will be returning to school next year. So that's very good for both programs. But you have Kevin Jennings against Penn State's pass defense. What are you looking out for when they have the ball?
Okay, so there's 2 things I'm looking for here. And I think that the theme that wraps it both for me is the fact that Tom Allen kind of runs his defense like the way, how the football, offensive football is a constant battle of controlling safeties.
Yeah.
Usually if it's one high, you want to throw it. And if it's too high, you want to run it, right? That's like exactly how Tom Allen's defense works, right? And obviously they're really darn good, and it's hard to get them out of what they want to do because they have so much talent. But I think this game is going to be won or lost for Rhett Lashley and SMU on first down, okay? For 2 reasons. One, I think Penn State has struggled when they have seen high tempo, and SMU's a top 15 team in just running the most plays in college football. They run a high tempo offense. Rhett Lashley's done that since he's been there. 2, Penn State runs a boatload of single-high defenses, especially on early downs, especially on first down. They want to load up on early downs and stop the run. Generally, SMU wants to run the football with Brashard Smith on first down.
Yeah.
I think you're going to have to throw the changeup. I think now you're going to have to let Kevin Jennings throw it on first down, and here's why. Against single high defenses, Kevin Jennings, 90.8 passing grade, 14 touchdowns, 9.7 yards per attempt. Every number you see on the screen there is top 5 in the country.
Wow.
He's one of the best passers in the nation throwing against single high defenses when he has those advantages. We've seen it early in games. We saw him throw a really nice ball up the seam to start the Louisville game. You know, when you show SMU cover 1, cover 3, they can attack it. They have the ability. And Clemson ran a lot of man coverage in the second half against them in the ACC title game. And to his credit, Jennings got the ball out on time and beat it. And then there's other times where he is athletic and he is mobile and he can run around and do some things. But I think this is the part for me. Can SMU find, with especially throwing on first down more than they do? Because I believe they're 82nd in pass rate on first down in the country. They want to establish, early down passes, first and second down. 82nd in the country in passing rate. They want to get Brashard Smith going. I get it. And their play action game can be a lot of fun, right? But I think this is a moment where if we think Kevin Jennings is a superstar, let him take control of the game a little bit earlier. Because with Tom Allen, again, we've seen, like, Penn State, they run a boatload of man coverage, right? We've talked about this. Ton of cover 1. They're not that great at it. It's not the best thing that they do. And Penn State on early downs, because they run so much single high, 65th in the country in coverage grade on early downs. Now, when they get to cover 2 and they rotate into that on later downs, and we already know Penn State is probably one of the 5 teams in the country that you most don't want to get into obvious passing situation. You do not want to be in 3rd and 8 against Penn State. If you want to avoid that, there's 2 things you can do. You can either run the football really well, which might be tough the way it's structured, or you just don't get to 3rd down. And you create explosive plays on first down. Maybe you force him out of it. Then you start talking about, okay, now he's going cover 2 on first down. Now I can run it with Brashard Smith. Now I got him all over the place, right? But I think this game for SMU, between the tempo and the coverages that they're going to see, they need to let Kevin Jennings, for me personally, I would have him let it rip on first down. I don't know if that necessarily means, some sort of just touchdown, we're shooting for home runs on the very first play of the game, but I would get him in a rhythm early and really mix up the play calling.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that, and also the SMU offensive line, whether they hold up against the Penn State defensive line as well, because SMU is top 20 in the nation in pass blocking grade this year, but again, you're going up against an elite Penn State pass rush headlined by Abdul Carter, who a lot of people think will be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. Penn State right now 8th in America in pass rushing grade this year as well. So, and also, yes, SMU's top 20 in pass blocking grade, but like we said before, the strength of schedule, not that hard. And you look at Penn State and what they've done this year, I think Penn State's pass rush is easily the best they've ever played this year. But I'm looking at the SMU run game in this one, Dawn, again, against the Penn State defensive line. I'm looking to see, can SMU get outside on the Nittany Lions? So the ground game, you mentioned Brashard Smith and how much they want to utilize him because he's been elite this year. He's a 91.2 PFF grade, 3rd among all running backs in America. The only 2 above him, Dalton, Ashton Jeanty and Jeremiah Love. Jeanty, who came in 2nd place for the Heisman Trophy, and Jeremiah Love, we just said it, is going to be the number 1 running back in the country going into next year, in our opinion. And I had him as a Heisman finalist for next year as well. So you have 2 excellent running backs ahead of Brashard Smith this year. He's a former wide receiver, Brashard Smith is. Outstanding receiving back, but he's also been one of the better rushers we've had as well. He is 2nd in the ACC with 1,154 rushing yards this year. A lot of his production has come on inside zone runs this year. 551 rushing yards on inside zone runs. That's 9th among all running backs in the Power 4. SMU as a team has run inside zone 215 times this year. That's tied for the 3rd most among Power 4 teams. Penn State's defense, and we saw this in the Oregon game as well, you get outside on them, you can make some things happen. Right now, Penn State on outside zone runs, 90th in the country in defensive grade. But inside the tackles, they are lights out. They are 5th in the FBS in EPA per play on inside zone runs. They only give up 3.6 yards per carry on inside zone runs, the 8th fewest in the country. The Nittany Lions, in particular, their linebackers, much prefer working downhill between the tackles and not going sideline to sideline and doing that. So I think it's kind of the opposite of Penn State, right? You said before, they got to go inside on you, and you want to do that because SMU is really good at defending the outside. Don, we saw it even the Oregon game and the Big Ten Championship game. Kobe King was throwing up on the first drive of the game because Oregon was going sideline to sideline on them. Penn State's linebackers are big, hulking monsters. But when they are like that, they're not great going sideline to sideline. I think SMU's got to change it up a little bit because I think if they run their inside zone that they've done all year, I don't think it's going to work against Penn State. But if you go outside of them and try to speed it up a little bit, and Brashard Smith is a very athletic running back. He has the capability of breaking it to the outside. That is how I think SMU can take advantage of Penn State's defense in this game, because otherwise I just do not think they can go downhill on Penn State like the Penn State offense could do against SMU.
So the reason that it's so simplified like that is because they run their offense at such a high tempo, right? It's not even so much early in the game about asserting physical dominance over a team, even though every coach would like to do that, but it's that exact thing. Can we wear them out, right? And I think it's always a combination of running the football, snapping the ball with 20 to 25 seconds left on the play clock, running screens to get them running side to side too. You can bet you're going to see a lot of that, especially with Penn State's pass rush. That's about getting the tempo going. Now, if they are successful running the ball early, like you mentioned with Oregon, Penn State might have issues because I think they've struggled with tempo all season. I think Kobe King is the one guy at times who can kind of chase sideline to sideline, but you don't want to do it all night, right?
Yeah.
And I think back to the USC game, I thought in the first half of that game, Penn State had problems getting to space and getting to tackling in space. And I thought there was a lot of issues they had with outside runs and Woody Marks bouncing runs and screens on the outside. So I think you're right. I think the theme here is if SMU gets to that tempo, that high tempo, just like Oregon did, just like Chip Kelly turned around the Ohio State game with on those 2 touchdown drives, that's a big problem for Penn State. So again, first down, early down success can lead to tempo, can lead to a problem for Penn State. I think this is a game on this side of the ball. It's going to be won or lost on first down.
So you already picked the upset in our first games today. You took Indiana over Notre Dame. Are you going to break my heart now and take SMU to beat my Nittany Lions, or will Penn State move on to face Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl?
For as much as I would love to see you that say, I'm going to take Penn State here.
Okay.
I think they're the better team. I think to beat them, it takes 60 minutes of darn near perfect football, right? And I think SMU, is there a road for them to win here? Yes. I think it's very narrow. I do. I just think they need Rhett Lashley to coach his best game of the year. They need Kevin Jennings to play his best game of the year. They need to get up tempo and dig their thumb into every Penn State weakness. And even then, we could still just see Drew Aller win the ball game, right? And the one thing we know about Drew Aller, doesn't turn the ball over. No. So I'm going Penn State. This is actually, of the 4 of them, the game that I'm the most sure on. Now, and even then, I'm like, a solid 70% sure on it.
It's still a 6-point game you got there.
Right, yeah, exactly. 27-21 Penn State. And I think the guy you mentioned there at linebacker, Kobe King, I think he plays a big part in this between the run defense for Penn State and chasing Kevin Jennings around when he breaks the pocket. That's a big part of this, too. I think Jennings, the athleticism that he's added this year, it's the one thing Preston Stone really didn't have last year. I think it's added another dimension both in the design run game and the scrambling. Kobe King, give me him as the MVP of the game.
Oh, love that. Yeah, him and Tony Rojas have been pretty impressed by at linebacker for Penn State this year. So I got Penn State as well. I got them winning in a little bit of a bigger margin than you, 34-24. I think they will shut down the inside zone game for SMU. They run so much of, and I think they'll make SMU rely on Kevin Jennings a little bit too much in this game. Even though he's a very, very good quarterback, I don't think you can solely rely on Kevin Jennings to win you this kind of ball game. And then on the other side of the ball, you said Kobe King is the MVP and the X factor of this game. I think Harrison Wallace could be the X factor of this game. I really think, listen, Tyler Warren, of course, is the focal point of Penn State's offense, but I think there's an opportunity here for Trey Wallace to be the guy that everyone goes, oh, wow, I did not see that coming. I think there's an opportunity for Harrison Wallace to have a big game against SMU, and like Penn State survives and moves on to face number 4 Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl. Hey, thanks for watching another episode of the PFF College Football Show. Please make sure you guys subscribe to the channel.
Also, subscribe to PFF Plus at subscribe.pff.com for all of the same data and grades that we use in our show, plus fantasy tools, betting tools, and our mock draft simulator.